Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert.
And Ryan.
Yeah. Today's episode, we will be discussing both episodes 3 and 4 of Falcon and the Finner Soldier.
Yes.
We, took just a quick hiatus last week, so we're going to, kind of cram these boys together. It was also our feeling that episode 3, there was a lot that went on, but our opinions of it were relatively simple. So
yeah, I think, and more so, episode 3, I think, pays off in episode 4 more. So
yeah,
I think taking on both episodes at once is going to be probably better for episode 3 in hindsight.
Yeah, certainly. So my first impression of, both episodes is that, episode 3, and I mentioned it a couple times in the other ones, is giving me sort of this same sagging kind of feeling I was hopeful for the show, and episode 3 just, while there were certain points that were really good in it, it's just continuing to not quite deliver what I was expecting. However, going into episode 4, I feel like, I don't know what happened, or I mean episode 4 was amazing, and this is where they really picked it up, and any complaints I had before have all sort of been resolved in episode 4. So that's how I felt about it.
Yeah, so episode 3 for me, I watched it and I just felt, wow. So I don't know if I have anything. Zemo, I like Zemo. And Sharon Carter was there.
She was there. She was present.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I felt about that episode. And then I even the way it ended, which we'll get into, it made one of the characters that I was getting interested in seem I didn't think that was something that their character would do, but then they developed that in such a good way in the next episode that it worked better for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, episode 4, fucking great.
Yeah, just amazing. So we'll jump right into it. And in the interest of saving time and moving through it a little quicker, normally we go with our own sort of recap commentary, how we saw it. But Ryan is going to go ahead and just read through the Wikipedia, and we might stop and make some comments along the way. But we're just going to give you the straight summary from Wikipedia. So
episode 3, Power Broker. Zemo offers to help them stop the Flag Smashers, them, Sam, and Bucky. And Bucky orchestrates a prison riot to allow Zemo to escape prison.
Yeah. Did he organize it? Or what did Bucky actually do to get him out of jail? I mean, other than allow him to?
He says
he put a card in his book. Is that what he did?
He specifies some way to start a prison riot, and it shows it, but I wasn't paying attention.
No, he drops a note that's what it was. He drops a note on some guy's desk while he's leaving that I think Zemo wrote, which was he's going to kill you or something like that.
Okay. All right. So they travel to Madripoor, a criminal sanctuary city island where high-ranking criminal Selby reveals that the power broker hired former Hydra scientist Dr. Wilfred Nagel to recreate the super soldier serum.
Can I just say, Madripoor, pretty cool. Very much. I assume that they're going for some kind of it's got this kind of neon sort of vibe in the high tower city, and then you're in this lower. It's almost got this weird sci-fi future kind of vibe. Makes me think of Singapore, because I know that they have very lax laws there, but I don't, not to say that Singapore is a criminal place or anything. Just I thought it was kind of cool.
I think this city is a good way to bring in something that I learned about episode 3 and 4, and it's that they were written by a man named Derek Kolstad, who is notable for also being a creator of the John Wick franchise. So if you get John Wick vibes from these episodes, it's because...
Yeah, I definitely... Wow, it's interesting that he would write that, right? Where he, his, claim to... I don't know if he's done other things, but his claim to fame is literally, the best action shooter series potentially ever, literal creator of Gun Fu and a criminal underworld, or, and stuff. So he's like, all right, cool. I wrote a scene. I wrote, an episode that's literally about a criminal underworld. And
but yeah, so we get Selby is killed when Wilson's identity is exposed, and every bounty hunter in Madripoor targets Wilson, Barnes, and Zemo. That specifically is like the John Wick moment where all of the other bounty hunter assassins get the text, this is the person.
Yeah.
Like, go kill. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're just walking around. They're just like, this isn't good. As they look at guys that are all looking at them, literally like fingers across the throat, like, I'm about to come kill you. Like, and they're just like waltzing through the town. It does make me, understand that. I mean, we already knew Bucky was kind of a badass, but like Sam straight up is not even like, they're trying to get out of there, but he's just not tripping too. He's like, oh, this is not good. I'm like, dude, it's very not good. You are surrounded by, like, you aren't bulletproof. Like, they'll just shoot you.
Gotta love Zemo's swagger. He's just like, yeah, we're about to die, but not me.
Yeah. Just, we'll talk about Zemo at the end, but that is just one of the many scenes that paint Zemo to be, like the standout character from episode 3.
Absolutely. And then the Selby character don't get a lot. We get like some bar scene. It's okay. Bucky has to do the Winter Soldier routine, but I mean, that's just fighting. So
yeah, but I mean, it all plays into this sort of like, this play between Zemo and Bucky, where he's supposed to be playing they go to Madripoor and they're all in these criminal disguises, and Bucky's criminal disguise is simply the Winter Soldier, and Zemo is almost Zemo's playing with it. He's using it. He knows that Bucky, you have to act like the Winter Soldier, and like, what is the Winter Soldier doing here if he's not under control?
Yeah,
and so puts Bucky in a position where he has to let loose and be the Winter Soldier again, even though he's clearly trying to distance himself from that.
Yeah. So, Sharon Carter, who has been living as a fugitive on the island, saves the trio and direct them to Nagel's lab. They learn that which is located like in like this like
shipping yard,
shipping container.
Yeah, literally inside of a shipping container that's made to look like shipping containers, but it's really some sort of secret facility within.
And yeah, so they find his lab, and there they learn that he created 20 total doses of the serum, which Morgenthau Carly stole all of. So I believe there are 7 like soldiers that are like established having the serum, which meant that there was another 13 vials of serum, give or take. The bounty hunters attack them. Like, they all come out, and we get a lot of scenes of Sharon fighting them off.
Yeah, giving Sharon the moment to establish that she is a total badass.
But once Sharon gets down there, she runs into them when Zemo kills Nagel in the chaos, and then like a missile's like fired at the container, and they're
kaboom, and they're all like, let's get out of here.
Yeah. And so Zemo then sort of runs off a little bit and basically blows like a gas vein or something and like causes a giant explosion, saving everybody. And then he goes and he finds a car and then is the getaway vehicle for everybody. So big, cool Zemo moments in this scene.
Yeah.
Carter stays behind and Wilson promises to get her pardon. Which, I mean, we didn't even get into the whole Sharon scene of her having been basically punished for her participation in the Civil War without getting any of the cover pardons that everyone else got. It's like she was just sort of forgotten about.
Just like all of us literally forgot about her IRL. We're like, oh yeah, Sharon Carter was in that movie, wasn't she? Like,
she was in 2 of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sam's promising to get her pardoned. We'll see what happens there. So then we see the Flag Smashers raid and bomb a GRC storage facility in Lithuania, where even one of Carly's like allies sort of like questions her decision to bomb the place
with people inside.
Yeah. People, theoretically workers for the GRC, the bad guys, but it's still a decision that she makes.
Yeah.
While Zemo, Barnes, and Wilson search for them in Latvia. And at the end of the episode, we see Bucky confronted by Ao, a member of Wakanda's Dora Milaje.
Yep, and that's episode 3.
Episode 4, The Whole World is Watching. Ao gives Barnes 8 hours to use Zemo before the Wakandans take him for having killed their king T'Chaka. Zemo helps to find Carly at a funeral for her adoptive mother, where Walker and Hoskins, what's Captain America's first name?
What is his first name? I can't remember.
Because I have him as Walker, and then
Yeah.
Hoskins is his friend, so Lamar is the first name.
John Walker.
John. All right. John and Lamar intercept them.
Mm-hmm. One thing that we sort of like, the summary didn't really mention it, was that we get this interesting flashback with Bucky and Ao to his time in Wakanda.
Yeah.
That, we can talk more about it later, but that's a, really excellent scene. That I don't know. We're just continuing to paint this picture with Bucky that I like.
So this came at the beginning of episode 4. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This recap didn't really touch on that, but that's a good thing to point out. So they're going to track down Carly, and when they have the place and location to go to, we get Captain America, who I didn't mention in episode 3. You actually see him like finding out about Zemo being broken out, and then he gets the idea that Sam and Bucky busted him out, and he's correct in learning that. So Sam speaks with Carly alone and attempts to persuade her to end the violence, but an impatient Walker intervenes and a fight ensues.
You almost kind of know that this is going to happen. You can see this kind of setup coming, but it makes you feel like as you're watching, like you can see that Sam is really getting through to her, and you see that John's getting impatient, and you're like, just give him a moment. Kind of, it's like one of those tense moments where almost as an audience, you kind of, you know more than what they know. And you're just, that it's almost going to go wrong. Like, we know that it's not going to end up the way it is because it has to, right? Like, we have to give this moment for John to mess things up. And, for Sam to almost be, I don't know if the word's vindicated, where like, I was almost through to her. Like, you messed this up. Like, come on. And this also just adds to this kind of like stacking, I don't know, this John's stacking feeling of not measuring up as Captain America. Like, we've already seen him essentially kind of fail in multiple regards. Like, it's not that he's not trying and he's not continuing to do things, and he's trying to do, I don't know, the right thing, and he's trying to pursue this terrorist, but really he keeps coming up with nothing at every, like when he goes to help Sam and Bucky on the truck. I mean, he's just really not able to do much. I mean, he does kind of save them, but isn't able to complete the mission. They break into this potential holding place for the Flag Smashers in, I think, episode 2. And the guy just says, "Get out of here. Nobody cares." Do you know who I am? Yes, I know who you are, and I don't care. Like, again, just being spurned as Captain America, someone who was a symbol even around the world, not just, in America. And again, this just further adds to it. They couldn't, pick up on the lead then, so they've come to follow Bucky and Sam here, and now it's, Walker, you wait and stay here. I'll go handle this. Again, I'm Captain America, right? John thinks I'm supposed to be the one that's doing this. I need to go in there and arrest her. I need to go do this. And to go in there and just get totally blown away and have ruined it, is just another blow to John.
Yeah, and we get even more of these blows to John going through this episode. What I actually found more interesting in this scene, rather than John's impatience, was the way that Sam and Carly play off of each other, like in their like conversation. I actually think is really effective. Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the better scenes of this show that I've seen thus far, at least in terms of like characters and like dialogue wise, as opposed to like action scenes.
Yeah, I've complained about the writing, and I stand that in those first few episodes it was in a lot of ways weak, but that scene truly was actually some good dialogue. Definitely an interesting interaction to watch and view. It seemed real and kind of, more real and genuine than other interactions I've seen and been a little disappointed with. So,
indeed. And so, in the course of the fight breaking out, Zemo is able to destroy most of the serum vials when he shoots Carly and causes her to drop the serum vial she had. And he's able to destroy most of them until Walker shows up, apprehends him, and finds the last vial, which he secretly takes for himself.
I just remember thinking, I was just like, why is she pulling all the vials out? Like, why is she I just remember thinking, I was like, I mean, obviously it just had to be the setup and stuff, but I was just like, this is just not smart. Why would you just take all the vials by yourself? Like, I would leave some of them there and go take like 4. Like, were you gonna literally go use every one of them? Then why wasn't that the next thing you did? How irresponsible. Like,
well, she wasn't expecting to get into a fight at a funeral.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Still irresponsible. I wouldn't have done it. I would be a way better terrorist than her.
Maybe. So, as Sam, Bucky, Walker, and Lamar all recoup on the situation. Also, Zemo's there. Ayo and the Dora Milaje come for Zemo, but Walker refuses to hand him over. And in the ensuing fight, the Dora Milaje humiliate Walker. That's what Wikipedia says, and Zemo escapes.
I mean, yeah, basically, I mean, that is essentially what happens. They show, like, again, this is another moment for Captain America. Oh, I'm a badass. Like, I have the shield. Like, and Walker is like a pinnacle of men as far as like athleticism and capabilities. But these, and not to speak any less of women, but I mean, I bet in his mind, these women that, from some African country, I don't know if he's even aware of what Wakanda is or he cares. Yeah. They just come in there and whip his ass. Like, they whip Captain America's ass, like, and just toss him around. Like, he is not, cannot stand against them. And they have him, like dead to rights, like where they could have just stabbed him and killed him if it wasn't for Bucky and Sam stepping in to stop them.
And even then, like, I'm pretty sure that they still won.
Yeah, Ayo deactivates it, Bucky's arm, like rendering him just, I mean, like at least half as useful, and they basically could have beat Sam if they wanted. Like,
and I think this scene sort of like leads into this really I think good character scene for Walker, where he's talking with Lamar about whether or not he would take the serum if he could, and talking about like some like regrets he has about whether or not he's always making the right decision. And I think it's really, they're really trying to get us to like feel for this guy as a human being.
Yeah,
because like we're already cued in to think that this guy is bad, but they're trying to make him like as like relatable or human as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think they're doing a good job. I've really been feeling it. There's a lot of decent setup in the first 2 episodes, but I now think we're getting delivery on it as these episodes go through.
All right. And then, so next up, Carly threatens Sam's sister, Sarah, to basically get him to meet with her so she can attempt to persuade him to join her. She wants to meet up alone, but Sam brings Bucky along, and he's quite upset that like she went through his sister, and they're having another conversation. This time it's not going as well as the first conversation. It's a little more antagonistic, but before they can really get anywhere in what they're talking about, they find out that Walker and Hoskins are engaging other members of the Flag Smashers, leading to another fight in which Morgenthau accidentally kills Hoskins. So there's stuff leading up to that. So they,
one previously Sam had asked Sharon to like look after, keep an eye on Walker, and she's the one that alerts Sam while he's having the conversation with Carly that, hey, like, I know where Walker's at. He's at this location. And they kind of put some clues together that not only is she trying to talk to him, but they're also kind of, they're going after Walker now. Like, they're going to, go kill him to make an example. And she says so much in her conversation, like, I don't want to kill you, Sam. Like, I want to, something like, I think she wants to, I want to send a message or something like, and so, Sam and Bucky immediately kind of start to try and like go to help Walker, and Carly engages with them. They, make that movement, go there. Lamar, moves ahead, and the Flag Smashers kind of take him and they knock him out. I don't know if they were trying to use him as a bait or if they were just they just wanted to put him away and not deal with him, because they could have just killed him then if they really wanted to kill him. But so either they did use him as bait or they just weren't even trying to kill him. Their target really was just Walker.
Yeah.
They get into an ensuing battle, and, Walker, once he starts fighting, he holds his own. It seems that he literally, blocks punches, and he throws his shield into a concrete wall. And we basically, see, and Bucky and Sam do arrive to assist him, and they all kind of get into a battle together. But we see Walker displaying superhuman strength, and it is, we essentially get a confirmation that
he took the serum.
Yeah, which we all sort of suspected he would, especially after that conversation between him and Lamar, where Lamar almost, without knowing that he has the serum, like he approved of
and encouraged the practice to do so.
Yeah.
And said that it wouldn't corrupt him because he is a good guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And during this, battle with multiple Flag Smashers, Bucky, Sam, Carly shows up and she rushes Walker with a knife. And as she is rushing him with a knife, Lamar literally leaps in the way, to defend his friend, and Carly just, full punch smashes him right in the chest and slams him against a concrete pillar, and bam. We can assume that just broke his neck, spine, and Lamar is dead. And it was definitely kind of a moment where you're like, oh man, like I almost felt it kind of coming too. Like there's a lot of this episode where you almost like feel it maybe coming. You can kind of see where things are leading, but man, to see it like, and up to this point, Lamar has been painted as like a pretty like decent guy. He's been supportive of his friend. He's been very reasonable when he's talking, like when he's had his interactions with Sam and Bucky. He's, it's just Lamar's been like he's like a good friend. He's been like a good buddy to John Walker, and a decent guy overall. So just seeing him just get bam, like smashed, like the only guy that, Sam's also not super, but he's dealt with supers before. So maybe he just knows how to protect himself.
I think his like his wings are probably serve as like an armor at times.
Yeah. And also just to see it happen, like Lamar was literally defending Walker, like, trying to stop him from getting, killed, and just
not knowing that Walker had the serum and probably would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to do what he, was supposed to do, being his partner's, psychic or whatever, or his partner, whatever.
His partner, yeah.
But yeah, no, that was, and Walker, like the whole fight just stops, and everybody just Walker walks over, and there's this idea that maybe I kind of get this idea where it confirms that maybe they didn't even want to kill Hoskins. Like they were kind of just going to leave him alone because everybody stops.
Yeah. It's like it's a character moment for Carly having, like, at this point, like, killed the person.
Yeah, directly, not just bombing people inside a building, but kill the guy. And yeah, we see everybody just stop, and Walker's like, hey, get up, man, get up, come on. And you just see him like sort of that denial, and as it's finally setting in, and everybody starts to scattering, like Sam and Bucky, they go after Carly, and then Walker, he just like turns around and leaps out of a window, like to get outside where the Flag Smashers are heading to, and sees one of them running, keeps going after him. And Bucky and Sam, they kind of take a different direction, and they make it outside, and we have Walker just chasing this Flag Smasher through the city. People are seeing them. They're just smashing their way kind of through people, until finally I don't know if he hits him with a shield or he basically gets the jump on him, knocks him down, and then right in the middle of this town square, this plaza, just in a rage, in a rage over his friend being killed. And we can, even see that all these other things that we mentioned before, stacking up, these humiliations, these, insecurities about himself as Captain America, all just coming to a culmination as Walker takes it out on, one of the Flag Smashers. He lifts Captain America's shield and he smashes off screen. We don't get to see it, but we get the point. He smashes this guy's face into the concrete with the Captain America shield.
Not sure if it's face,
chest. I mean, whatever. Like in my head, I'm thinking face. I think he like mutilated that guy's face. Like, he uses the shield like a blade.
Yeah, that's why like when he is holding the shield and is about to come down, I'm like, is he going to decapitate the guy? And then it looked like it went lower than the neck to me when he came down. So like it was like he was like stabbing into his chest or something.
Yeah, and you just get him. I mean, and multiple times, like to not just to knock this guy out, but he kills this guy in broad daylight, surrounded by people.
Yeah, the outside appearance is that he chased this man down, and the man's running away, and like he's not like posing a threat. There's no like attacking back or fighting back, and they don't know that this guy's a super serum. I mean, they don't know Captain America is either. Yeah, but he's just chasing this guy down and kills him while he's cowering for his life.
While he's screaming, "It wasn't me! It wasn't me!" Like and he kills him in full view. Just, like, and you can see in his face, like, he's just kind of like lost it a little bit. And as he brings his shield back up, he's almost in a daze, like kind of like wobbling a little bit as he picks the shield up. And people are just filming, watching, a whole crowd. Sam and Bucky are there. Carly's in the crowd as well. And she's even a little bit appalled, which, again, you really just killed his partner. Like,
well, she's afraid.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely just an excellent way to end this episode. Definitely giving us.
Yeah, we end with the image of Captain America with the bloody shield.
Yeah, with blood on his shield, and it's like, this image like just gives you this like sense, and you just know what's kind of you have this idea of what's coming in the future. I don't know. It was just excellent. This is a good episode 4. If WandaVision's episode 4 was amazing, and those first 2 episodes were kind of like this is like. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. We're very happy with that episode, and now all the other episodes are kind of a little better for how they've led to this.
I would agree there. All right.
So that's pretty much the recap of both episodes. Now we're gonna get some talking points, and for this one, I think we're gonna focus on, and we're gonna go a little bit character by character because I think there's a lot to discuss on each of the sort of the main characters we're seeing in the series now. Across these 2 episodes and sort of how they developed or how we're just feeling about each of them. And I think we'll start with Sam.
Yeah, Sam. So what's interesting about these last 2 episodes is in both of them we get a tiny little bit of his sister, who was completely absent from episode 2 as I recall. And so we get these sort of like little reminders of this other priority that Sam has to deal with and remember. And it just sort of like humanizes him, ties him back to a reality outside of this, and makes us hope that nothing happens to him and that he's able to get through this and get back to his sister and fulfill the promises he made to her.
Yeah, and in both of those little instances, we get a cut of his sister. Also, I'm getting this feeling where they're kind of like making it like she's getting roped into Sam's life almost, because in both instances it's basically a phone call, and the first phone call is she calls him to discuss things about the house while he's supposed to be in a character, and he has to answer it out loud. And now it's like she's sort of interrupting his like the sort of life he's living. And the second one is when Carly has contacted her and says, you need to deliver a message to Sam. And then she relays it to him and finds out this and how she's basically threatening her life and everything. And it's,
and her family's life.
Yeah. So we're seeing how like what, Sam's doing is, what she obviously called and affected him in the first one, but how he almost is affecting her in the second one. Where and she is just a regular person, like she doesn't want to be involved in this stuff, and I can assume that Sam probably takes some measure of guilt, that he is bringing her into somehow, that what he's doing is affecting her. And I like, separate of his sister, but just something about Sam is that I like in these episodes we're getting more painted just. For me, the feeling that Sam should have been Captain America. We just see him really, I think, living Steve's sort of ideals, that Steve was like a super soldier. He was the first Avenger, the first super soldier, this superhuman guy that, could have done anything, could have abused his power, and always held himself to a higher standard. Always believed in the best in people. Always, believed that we could do it together, that there was a peaceful way, wanted to, like really what everybody that watches the movies would assume is he tried to live the highest ideals. And that Sam doesn't even try to really live the highest side. It's just what he believes. He doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't think it's okay to kill. Obviously, he does it. He battles and things, but most of the time, he's just not. That's not what he's out for. He wouldn't have agreed with breaking out Zemo if he understands that it was a means to an end. But he was like, you're going back to jail afterwards, and he's never been okay with Zemo and interacting with him. He's never allowed it to be something that was okay. But maybe a little bit of greater good, but that's also him working with Bucky. I think Bucky is kind of more like a get it done how we need to. He's like a reformed Winter Soldier, so he used to be on the other side of the law. And I think that's the good cop, bad cop interaction, is that Sam is like a genuine, trying to do the best thing guy. Bucky is also trying to do the best thing, just he's more willing to get dirty to do it.
Yeah.
And I like this. We're continuing to build and see Sam, just be. What the story in these last 2 episodes has done is show, not tell me, that Sam is a really good guy. And they always painted the picture out, but I think we're just getting to see a lot more of it, and I really like it.
Yeah, and to sort of add to that, I think the ways that we get Sam's characterization as a Captain America figure most fleshed out are with his interactions with first Sharon, where he is like really just trying to like make it up to her because like he recognizes like she was done dirty and sort of forgotten about, and he feels guilty for the role he had to play in what's happened to her in her life and the presumed suffering she's had being separated from her family for years, even through the course of the blip. Because I think the understanding is that Sharon probably didn't get blipped, and she's been living this life the entire time.
Yeah. No, I think that she basically, it's because that she's been, setting up contacts and stuff all this time. That's.
Yeah. And that, so we get like, he genuinely seems regretful and wants to make it up to her. And then with Carly, again, I talked about those scenes earlier, but on the Sam side of things, like he is like he's such a good person that you believe that he can reach Carly, just the way he like breaches the conversation with her. Like he's able to let her put her guard down in a way that I wouldn't have expected Carly to do so easily. But Sam's that kind of person.
Yeah, I mean, and because Sam was just being genuine, he was connecting with her on a real level. He literally said like, "Hey, I basically agree with you. I agree with you on a lot of these things. Like things aren't okay," but he's just communicating like this, but you're going about it the wrong way. Like killing's never the option. Like, again, just this absolutely noble idea that he could agree with the regular people. And I mean, I think this goes back to a lot, again, just goes back to like Steve. I think there was multiple moments, and I can't pick any of them out just particularly, but where you'd have Steve kind of in this dialogue with maybe like Tony or with other individuals like in Winter Soldier, where he's basically preaching like, hey, like you might think that this is how it is, but like this isn't right, and I can only do what's right, like that's all I can do. And this is kind of Sam in that same moment. He's like, hey, you know what? I agree with doing the best thing for what's good for people, but we have to do what's right here, and it's not right to kill people, like innocent people. And yeah, I mean, like, and also just this charisma, like this inspiration. Like Sam's is a little inspiring in his conversation with Carly.
Yeah,
and I mean that's how we would again, that's what we want out of our Captain America. We want him to be inspiring. We want him to give us all hope that we can overcome these dark and terrible things, but in the best possible way.
Yeah. So let's go. I think we can go to Bucky next, which you already touched upon. The well, you had mentioned the flashback sequence with Ao back in Wakanda, where he's basically at the end of getting broken of his Winter Soldier programming, and we watch him we watch Ao read off his command words, and once she finishes it, is that he is able to resist the call, and he doesn't revert to the Winter Soldier, and he's like, it's this breakthrough moment, and it's something we never saw before, and instantly makes the character that appeared at the end of episode 3 matter more, because when we first see this character, it's just a Wakandan soldier who we don't really know. But once we get this flashback, we see, oh, Bucky has a connection to this person. Bucky has a specific connection to this person. And that makes this person, it makes him matter more when she shows up and reminds him of what happened. But then we also have the, like you said, the Bucky being the bad cop, where we got him breaking or helping to break Zemo out, and to basically sort of convince Sam to go along with breaking the law to get what they need.
Yeah. I mean, so the interact, what I'm getting, the development of like Sam across this is kind of like this, really letting us see how noble of a guy he is. What the sort of the characterization I get with Bucky is that we are seeing a man who's pretty stoic. I mean, Bucky is like very, like plain faced and doesn't really give us a lot, directly, but we are seeing so many moments of a man who is broken and sort of trying to recover, like trying to heal, and having to continuously face his past, and the past almost trying to drag him back, and always like him trying to take, a step forward and then being, dragged a little bit back. And with, Zemo, not only, he's willing to do these kind of like dirty things, but again, it's, I want to do something good. And that's the Bucky trying to move forward with life, but his, way of doing things, not always the greatest. And that's like maybe the Winter Soldier kind of coming back. Winter Soldier would just do whatever he had to complete the mission. Yeah. Obviously Bucky has a little bit more morality now. He won't, just do anything, but and then Zemo is, we think that that Bucky's been making strides, but Zemo in episode 3 takes multiple moments to kind of just fuck with Bucky, like to try and drag him back down, to try and remind him of what he did, almost to put him back in that position. He steals the, his little black book, and he, reads off one of the names and then calls it out exactly what the book is. He puts Bucky in a position where he not only has to assume a persona of the Winter Soldier again, but literally has to like live it out. He forces him. Though I mean, maybe the situation, called for it somewhat, but I mean, it could have been, done some other way. But Zemo wanted to put him back in that position. And he mentions to Sam in episode 3, you see how easily he falls back into, again, I'm paraphrasing here, but you see how easily he falls back into his old ways. Really trying to like show Sam like, haha, even though this guy thinks he's moved on, he hasn't. The first interaction he has with Bucky when he comes is to start saying the words.
Yeah.
And again, just to taunt him. Like, even if he understands, like, oh, you've gotten past it now. Sure. All right. But, taunts him with those command words that he controlled him directly with previously.
Yeah.
And so we get all these moments where where we're shown like the ways that Bucky maybe is weak, but then we see that beautiful moment with Ao in the flashback where she is reciting the words slowly, and he even asked, like, are you sure we should do this, like, his hesitation, because he doesn't, he's clearly been so I mean, the way that they program these things into him was like through constant abuse and torture and like manipulation and drugs and things, and it was such like strong, like literally words would just trigger him into a whole different mind state. And that clearly whatever he went through in Wakanda, was not easy. And we're just seeing this moment of him, like, this recovery. He cries, as he's flashing back, hearing the words, like all these things flashing through his head, and so much emotion there. You see a man like that's just come through something, after so many years, has been released, and, is now maybe on that is like the moment of Bucky being on the path to truly healing. And we see him now, and he has made some way on that path, but again, it's like things are just continuously trying to drag him back into it. And so I'm really interested to see more of how this plays out, and what kind of resolution that comes to eventually. Like, I want to see Bucky really overcome this even more and move on. And it's just, they definitely humanize Bucky more as well. Like they really just give him more character, and I've been enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that I noticed about when Zemo pulls out the little book, he mentions the name of the character from episode 1, the old Asian man that he wanted to,
Yeah, was it Nakashima?
yeah, to make amends with, and like Bucky reacts quite caustically to that, and so I'm interested to see how we get the resolution. Specifically, we're probably going to get, if we're going to get any resolution from this show alone, it'll probably be in the form of him reaching out to this guy and maybe confessing or just trying to make things right. Or maybe when he gets back, it'll have been too late or something like that. And I just kind of want to see where that little, because they teased it for us, so I'm expecting to get more on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or even here's like this is like a theory. Maybe, Zemo saw it in his book, so maybe like Zemo uses that against him. Maybe there's like a part of Zemo, because we see him doing this taunting, but maybe he wants to break Bucky again. Maybe he wants to revert him back and prove or something that Bucky isn't. Bucky says that Steve believed in him, right? And like he believes in himself because of that kind of thing. He's trying to he's helping Sam in some way to prove to himself that he is the kind of guy that Steve believed in him. And maybe Zemo is almost like a foil to that. Yeah. Like where he's trying to show, no, you're not, like, you are just a killer. Like, and you can't just wash all that away. And like, maybe he'll go and he'll like kidnap Nakashima, or he'll tell Nakashima that he did it. And Nakashima will just, before Bucky gets the chance to say it himself, where he would have had the absolution, Nakashima will have been told by Zemo and spurn him and say, I can't believe you did that. And I don't know. This is a theory. Like I could be wrong about that, but I think it'd be interesting interaction.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would specifically help Zemo, but we'll see. So, but do you have anything else to say about Bucky?
There was something I wanted to touch on. I almost I might come back to it later, but I kind of forget just this moment. So
all right. So next I wanted to talk about Let's Go Carly. So I mentioned at the top of this recording that there was the ending of episode 3, specifically when Carly bombs the GRC, that I didn't exactly agree with that as a character choice at the time of watching that episode, but through the course of episode 4, I feel like they justified it, specifically with Zemo's remarks about how the serum causes people to become supremacists, and to have that sort of idea that the absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, it doesn't matter how good your intentions are, you may do bad things, and we see her do that. But then we get to see her confronted by Sam about that, and have to consider the fact that maybe what she's doing is supremacist. And I think that it's that sort of comment that really speaks out to her. Like, is what she's doing right? When he asks her if this is something that her adoptive mother would have agreed with her doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think we get this, like, we don't get a ton from Carly. We get a lot of like seeing her in actions. We see her resolve. We get a little bit of her motivation that clearly, she was kind of like this forced refugee sort of feeling, and that she's doing this sort of to the better of all people. She's continuing to resolve herself to do what's necessary. I mean, basically, like, I'm resolving to be a terrorist because this is the only thing that they will listen to. And now I'll say that, like, I actually haven't totally, this is one of those points of like writing where I haven't like been very convinced. Maybe it might even be her acting. Like, I haven't thought her acting has been amazing up until I think episode 4. Episode 4, it just seemed like everything worked for me. Like, if I had complaints about, like some of the dialogue between Sam and Bucky, or between like other people, I thought Carly's was like not that, I wasn't so very into her. but I think everything in episode 4 worked. And I think that interaction between her and Sam really did
Elevate her character.
yes, I think it really elevated her character a little bit. It actually showed me a little more of that, like it allowed her to elaborate in like a more of a rhetoric way where they're discussing, her way of thinking about things and having her defend herself. He actually put her in a position where he made her say something. And that was actually, that moment was almost weak because she immediately like she didn't even like seem like she had any actual remorse for what she said. She just like immediately was like, wait a minute, you made me say that. I didn't mean it. I was like, what are you talking about? That was like a weird little moment in that interaction. I thought was like,
I think it was a moment where a kid got tricked into
saying something by an adult,
saying what they really meant, and then being confronted by that. Because like we forget that she's a child, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, she's clearly young. Like, I mean, maybe like early 20s or something.
See, I was getting the feeling that she's meant to be playing like a teenager. Like the actress may be older, but I was getting the idea that this is like a teenager.
Yeah, maybe she is. In any case, like basically, yes, she is youthful, and I think that is even a reason that now, like episode 4, helped me to understand that a little better. That she is just a young sort of person trying to change the world, and this is her, method to do it. And I think, I don't know, episode 4 really gave me a lot more to actually, appreciate about her. And I think I got more severity from her. Like I think from episode 3. If her killing those people and blowing them up was a resolution to be willing to do whatever she needed to, I think in episode 4 we saw a little more of that rawness. Like her calling Sam's family was definitely, like I think I was like, okay, she's really to step it up. She's like, I'm gonna kill the Captain America now. Like she's really like escalating it now. She's going, and she's essentially said so much. So I would think that maybe like her characterization of this point is, like someone like a revolutionary, truly committing to their cause, like just continuously, pushing the boundaries to get what she wants. And it's been interesting to see her develop. I haven't quite liked her so much up to this point, but I think I like her more as of episode 4. Maybe you have more to comment on, how she's developed, and I don't think I had as much to say about her.
Well, so episode 3, like I said, like I bought into her character. I liked her enough to say, because we get her introduced in episode 2, and then we get little bits of her like talking with one of her friends in episode 3, and then she makes the sort of switch to being an actual terrorist where she blows up the building. And then we get and we see her like with the adoptive mother, like as she's dying. And then we get the funeral where she's paying her respects and like giving the eulogy. And so we're still getting these moments to try and like show that she's maybe not too far gone, that she can't be brought back, specifically by Sam, presumably. But we also get, and I'm going to, you say you don't have a lot to talk about Carly. I'm going to use this as a way to segue into our next character. We get this one moment in the episode where she's talking with one of her allies and one of her other members of the group. And he talks about how when he was a kid, he really looked up to Captain America. Like he bought into the symbolism and everything. And it's just, we get these moments like this where we're like her friends are trying to like ground her and bring her back. And it's just a question of whether or not the escalation of her having killed Hoskins and having her partner killed back because of that, whether or not she's going to take this as a chance to change her ways for the better or keep going down this dark path. And the other person on the influx of that is John Walker.
Yeah. May I? One thing you actually just said right there made me think of something, and I don't know. I'm just not sure here, but I wanted to pose this question: was the guy who said that he? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I was about to say John Walker. We see at the end of the episode him hunting down and killing the man who earlier said to Carly, looked up to Captain America as a kid and saw him as a hero.
Mm-hmm.
have him killed by Captain America.
Oh my God, that just like you saying that, and I didn't put that together until you said that right now, man. That just it like hits me on a whole nother level now. Oh my God, like, oh man, wow. That's even pushes this episode a little further forward. Like man, that's insane. Yeah, but so John Walker, I touched on that a little bit in this episode, but he so far has had, I mean, again, Sam and Bucky are the protagonists, but he has had more of a real like this journey so far, this mental journey being displayed, this emotional mental progression, and it's
it's sort of a hero's arc in
anti-hero,
anti-hero arc,
how a man sinks lower and lower almost over time, like, and because I mean we really do get so. For the first episode, right, we just have him introduced. We don't know anything about him. Second episode, we get to know John Walker. We get to see him in action. We get him painted as like, and he is a pinnacle man. Like any person that would have just known him would have been like, wow, what a great guy. Medals of Honor, led forces in Iraq, Afghanistan, captain in the fort, like not even a captain. He was like higher rank. Captain is technically like a lower rank than whatever he was before. But just, he was the Star Spangled Man. Now he's Captain America. We see him show up and help Sam and Bucky. Like he, in earnest, shows up, tries to help them and save them from, the Flag Smashers, and then wants to join forces with them totally amiably. When they eventually get picked up and go to jail, he busts them out. And again, it's like, hey, let's work together. Like he seriously is working in all good faith, like wants to do the right thing and work with them. And, it's just has continuously spurned. And he even says to them, he's like, hey, like I would like his two best, Captain America's two best men to, to help me out here, to give me, like, I'm the new Captain America. Give me a little bit of validation. Like you guys were his, like two closest people. Please, tell me that I'm trying to do the right thing here. And they both basically are like, in nicer and less nice ways of saying it, fuck off. Like, no, we don't want to work with you. Like, we don't, Bucky like directly does not accept him as Captain America. And Sam just kind of is like, we're going to do our own thing. Like Sam is really more offended by the idea that he became Captain America sort of instead of him, when he didn't really want that to happen. He wanted it to be, put away. And so we get that. And then we get more scenes of Walker, as I mentioned before in episodes 3 and all the way into 4, just continuing to have his faith in himself shaken a little bit, to be humiliated, to fail over and over again. And we even get him directly talking about kind of his insecurity, as Captain America in a couple different ways, about how, like I've been giving this, I don't know if, I have so much pressure on me. I don't know if this is ever going to, measure up correctly. And, when him and Lamar are talking, like someone comes up and asks for an autograph, and he's not even in America. He's somewhere else. And this goes back and reaffirms the picture that Captain America is a symbol worldwide, that, he is a savior and a hero to the whole world, whether, he's in America or not. And all of that just leading up to the failure, the loss, the lack of validation, the insecurity in himself, the, just that continuous journey as we see it peck away at him more and more. We see him getting frustrated, the disrespect, like that he's captain. I'm Captain America. Why, you should be respecting me. Like I was chosen, all the way down until it's that final grievous loss, to have something taken from him by the people that are his enemies. Just leading him,
in a way by his own failure, that he was right there and he couldn't stop it. Yeah,
exactly. Just feeling again like a failure, to lose the one person that was truly supporting him all along the way, like really having his back and continuing to keep him confident. Because I mean, really, every time he seemed to be showing a little bit of to the very first moment we see him in the locker room, he was having doubts. He didn't know, and Lamar was like, "Hey, you were chosen. That uniform's for you." Like from day one. And to have that taken from him, I mean, I feel for the guy, honestly. I think I was saying in the first podcast that I kind of like John Walker. I mean, I thought he seemed like he was an okay guy. I didn't know where it was supposed to go, but I mean, it was definitely painting him up to be a decent dude. And yeah, we just see how he has sunk and gone all the way down. And we've also gotten a little bit of this painting that, I mean, even though we see how he's been devolving, that he kind of reveals in that conversation with Lamar that those 3 medals of honor weren't earned doing anything honorable. And we can like anybody who's heard of the atrocities of war can understand without having to know intimately. And then for maybe even some veterans, they do know intimately. They're like, the things you do for your duty over there are certainly not always noble. Sometimes you have to do terrible things. And all of this just, I mean, like, I think this really does take us on such a journey with Walker. And I mean, wherever this goes from here, I mean, if this is, I think I understand from some of the knowing things about the comics that, John Walker becomes like an anti-Captain America. Like he becomes like a bad version of him and everything. But this is I think Disney has done just a fantastic job humanizing him and making us understand, like, if he goes on to being an evil-ish Captain America, I would, I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but I would fully understand it. I would be like, I get why he's doing this. Like,
yeah, I agree. I think going forward, I can buy into what they choose to do with him, whether or not he becomes a recurring figure or if he's just present for the series. I'm interested in that. So I now want to touch on another aspect of Captain America, or John Walker as Captain America, and that's by sort of tying him back into Carly. So I mentioned that there was this inflex point that I felt with Lamar's death, where it's in my belief that Carly will take from this experience and recognize the wrong that she's done and try to do better, especially after seeing that her action directly led to her friend being killed due to the rage she caused in Captain America. Whereas I think that John is going to keep going down from this. Like, he's not getting better. The person that he needed to make him better is gone. And I think that it makes me recognize that, like, the two sort of play out as like opposite arcs in this story. Because notably, both of them, we get tiny bits of them of who they are going to be at the end of episode 1. But it's not until episode 2 that we actually see these characters, and we're getting Carly and John both developed as these people that we're inherently going to agree with and see as human beings on some level, but we recognize that their actions make them kind of bad guys. And it's basically deciding which one's going to be the bad guy and which one of them has a chance to be saved. And I think it's my belief that that's how it's going to play out. It could turn out that Carly goes darker and John like learns from his mistakes and maybe is able to recover before he becomes the dark Captain America. But only time can tell there. I do think that they have an interesting dynamic, the two of them, that I realize after this episode.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. I don't know that. I mean, I guess you make a good point that Carly might kind of recover and, come back to light almost, but I almost don't think that she will. I think they're both going to be, I think she's going to keep being sort of in her pseudo, like, good intention, but bad means. And I think, I think you are right that they have almost, that they show a similar sort of progression, that they both have good intentions. It's how they're ending up getting to those. So
if I had to make a wild guess, I would see Carly basically sacrificing herself in some way to do the right thing at the end of the last episode, whereas John will become the bad guy and be dusted aside for now, but with the opportunity to come back later.
mm-hmm.
I that's sort of what I would guess is going to play out, but we don't know for sure. And that kind of seems like maybe the most obvious thing that's going to happen, which I hope to be surprised.
Yeah. So, but let's move on to Zemo.
Zemo is I don't know if I remember much of him in these episodes, other than him being the best thing on the show, hands down, no question.
I don't know about episode 4 being the best thing, but he was absolutely the best thing in episode 3.
I mean, he's the best thing in the show, like just hands down.
Well, you tell me, give me all your thoughts on him and why he's so great to you.
I don't know, like just like his. It's the first time I didn't think the writing was bad. The dialogue was bad. Like maybe it's just his accent or something, but like the things he says, like all like so we get the sort of like in episode 3, we get Zemo kind of giving himself like the backstory that he was never given before about how he like actually had money and he came from stuff and he like researched stuff. And when he's talking about all this stuff, it's like this cool, like funny, quirky, like villain dude, like revealing his plans because he has a cool accent. Whereas in the same episode, we get Sharon sort of having the same talking points of like talking about what's happened with her, how this has affected her and what she's been doing and stuff. And like, I blame it on the writing with Sharon, but I imagine the writing's not so different with Zemo, but Zemo just delivers it. And I don't know if it's the actor. I don't know. I mean, it's probably the actor. He does a really good job. Like he just has this inherent charisma. Like even though he's a bad guy, like I forget he's a bad guy in some of the scenes. When he like does something bad, I'm like, oh yeah, he's not one of the good guys. We can't trust him, but like he's just so likable, you know. Like the little dancing scene in episode 3, him putting on the mask and blowing everything up, basically saving the day, pulling around in a car, doing the Turkish delight thing where he like convinces the kids to give him the information that Sam and Bucky weren't able to get. Like he's like basically when he's on Sam and Bucky's side, he sort of gets them everything they want. Like he gets stuff done. Like he knows what he's doing. He's a smart guy. He's just, yeah. So I want to hear from you.
So what I think they do really well are a few things. One, you're right. Like his writing is very good. But what I really love is that I think they take a lot of moments to show us, not tell us who Zemo is. That obviously there's a straight up exposition where he's like, well, I'm a baron. Like, of course I have money and stuff. Like, or, I'm rich and everything. But what I see a lot is I got the idea, and I think I fully understand from all the things we see that Zemo is brilliant and he has a deep understanding of psychology. And he uses that. He is always a few steps ahead. We see it multiple times where he orchestrates the whole breakout. That was all his plan. He just needed Bucky to do one little thing for him. And he already had this whole plan done either it was already all in the cahoots and he had no idea that Bucky was coming to see him. So he must have just had this plan sort of ready in case somebody came to see him, in case, so for him to execute that was like, it just shows he's the kind of guy that has a plan. He's always thinking ahead. The thing with the Turkish delight, he goes and sits down, he knows that they're going to walk around and do all this and that, but he's like, oh, this is how I can find out. Maybe instead of being a guy walking around shouting, do you know who this person is? I go and I talk to these kids who probably know her. Before they go into the underworld, he says, this is what we have to do. We're going to have to dress like this and act like this so that we can get through. And he was right. They basically all went off without a hitch until Sam, because he got a phone call, messed it up.
Yeah.
We see that he has, and he just has this complete confidence and utter surety in himself that, with the pipe thing, he just leaves. He walks off. Nobody knows what he's doing. Oh, he shows up at the perfect place because he's thinking ahead. He's not thinking, I'm going to sit here and get in a shootout. He thinks, I'm going to move over here, go around, get a better vantage point, and then, to where I see them all, lined up over there. I'm going to shoot this gas pipe that was behind them. Mm-hmm. So he's always thinking ahead, always moving ahead. And then we see his interaction with Sam and Bucky, where he's always kind of playing into their psychoses. He's always like, he's reading people, he's understanding them. And they said before, like, he understands so many things about Hydra because he did all the research, he did all the work to understand. So we not only have us being shown that this guy is brilliant, like he's like an excellent villain. And just like you said, he has a swagger, a charisma about him. We almost like him, even though he's a bad guy. But we have behind all this that his purpose is essentially also noble. Again, much like Bucky, who's trying to be a good guy, but going through maybe in not so great means, that all Zemo wants is he wants to rid the world of super soldiers. He doesn't want, gods among men. He wants to just be men, which now, granted, he was a baron apparently. So he was a super rich guy. So for him to be like, I don't want there to be people above me, he has a little kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fishy.
Yeah. But I literally, he has a super soldier serum sitting in front of him. He picks one up, right? And you think to yourself, like, oh, well, anybody might take it, right? Like anybody would want the super soldier. But he says, no, his principle was, I do not want this to exist. I don't want super soldiers to be a thing. I want them all to be dead. He kills the guy that makes the super soldier serum.
Yeah.
And he smashes all the vials that he sees.
I specifically wanted to bring those two moments up as points where, like, as I watched the episode, I was like, that's exactly what Zemo would do.
Yeah.
Because in the scene with the scientist, you see Zemo with a gun. I'm like, oh, is Zemo gonna like try and like make his escape here from them? Like, is he gonna like shoot one of like Sam or Bucky and try to get out and like do bad stuff? No, he uses the bullet to kill the guy that can make more super serum. And I'm like, that's exactly what he would do. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And the scene where he has the serum, like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, is he gonna use it to destroy it? Like, I don't know if he would do that. And no, he doesn't. He breaks it. He breaks all of them that he can. And it's just like such a rewarding moment because it's like, yes, that's what you would do.
And you see this whole time, Zemo has not been doing what Sam and Bucky wanted him to do. Sam and Bucky have been doing what Zemo wanted them to do.
Yeah.
He's been just doing, they got him out of jail, and then they escorted him and assisted him with, going to meet Selby and all these things that, one, he wouldn't have gotten into jail without Bucky, even though he made the whole plan. But he also probably wouldn't have, he needed a little bit of that backup. He needed them to kind of validate. He needed them to protect him from Captain America and the Dora Milaje.
Yeah.
People that would come after him.
Speaking of which, we didn't even mention that when the Dora Milaje showed up, that he escaped.
Yeah.
Like he used the subterfuge of everybody else fighting to just make his way out through the sewers.
Yeah. And so, again, he was thinking 3 steps ahead. Bucky tells him, hey, they're going to be here to get you later and blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, yeah, no problem. Doesn't faze him at all, right? He's probably already calculating. He's already like, how am I going to make sure I can get out of this? When Captain America locks him up, he gets himself out of the handcuffs easily and is at the right place at the right time. Shoot Carly Morgenthau, smash the serum. When they all start fighting, he already had a plan. He was like, oh, cool, great, boom. I'll use the distraction to slip out. He knew what was going on the whole time. What a insane, amazing villain, and just done so well, perfectly.
What's so great about it, too, is that it, like, whereas like finding out that he was rich, that's new information, but everything about him sort of tracks with his capabilities in Civil War, because we've already seen him being able to cripple the Avengers, like at a time of importance for them to not be split apart. He was able to do that before. So yeah.
In Civil War, you are definitely correct. But it wasn't so clear that he really orchestrated all these events in such a long way and was able to think, so many steps ahead to make Civil War essentially happen. But here we get to see it almost in such these macro, like small ways. It's just reaffirmed. Now we really understand, like, this is who Baron Zemo, the villain, is. He is an ultra smart, like, man that can think ahead, that's very capable, very connected, rich. So like we see why he would be a force to be reckoned with as a villain. And plus he's just so cool. Like, he was a cool villain. Like, you're right. The accent, just everything about how the actor plays him, I think it just worked. He was definitely the best thing about episode 3. And I hope he's not gone for the rest of the series. Like, I hope he pops back up. I'm
excited to see where he is maybe past this show because
I hope it's not just resolved. Like, oh, he's going back to jail by the end of the series. That'd be a little bummer. I'd rather see him get another instance in a movie before they, if they're going to do away with them.
And so I'm realizing now that this ended up sort of like pairing characters together. We had Sam with Bucky, we had John with Carly, and now I think Zemo is best paired up with Sharon, who is, so it's an interesting thing where I don't think her character is bad or uninteresting, or like, and I don't disagree with her, like, after the whatever she's gone through for the past 7 years, being a different person than she was when we last saw her. When we last saw her, though, we didn't know much about her. There wasn't much to think of her. So her coming back kind of out of nowhere just sort of felt jarring. Like, oh, what? Oh, that's from the Captain America movies. I remember her. Yeah. Oh, this is what happened to her. Okay. It just kind of caught me off guard to like her just show up out of nowhere, to me at least. And the way she just introduces herself, like, it's just sort of like she's there and she's able to save them at the perfect right time and get them what they needed to do. And like, she, in ways that Zemo was sort of like is able to like get them whatever they want whenever they want it. But at this point, it doesn't feel as justified, the amount of power that she has in this underground world. She's able to keep them from dying. She finds the scientists. She tracks down Walker. She does all these things for them. And it's like, I don't know, do you have anything to say?
So, I mean, I think something that's similar between both Zemo and Sharon is that we get them in. It's not Winter. We don't get her.
She's in Winter Soldier.
She's in Winter Soldier, but Zemo's only in Civil War, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, basically, these are characters that didn't really get much in those movies, right? Zemo was the villain, but like he wasn't even really. I mean, he was the one that orchestrated events, but he wasn't someone that was a huge, like, we got a ton on him, and we got like, oh, his motivation is that you guys killed his family in Sokovia, and now you went through and did all this stuff, and
like, I didn't dislike him as a character. He just wasn't really developed.
Yeah, so exactly, we got undeveloped characters. They were kind of introduced for their purpose in those movies, and then they're just like done. They were cast aside. In Falcon and Winter Soldier, especially in episode 3, now we get these characters being a little more fleshed out. We get them drawn out and given a little more life. I think that if you compare these two a little bit, Zemo obviously I think he just was done a lot more was done well with him. But I think he is inherently a more interesting character. He's a more interesting villain. Sharon isn't quite. I mean, it's not like she's one of the main villains that is is a Baron or all these things that about her. She's just Peggy Carr's niece, who was a SHIELD / undercover FBI agent, and now she's turned. Now but I do like that for both of them. They gave them a second breath of life. They allowed, like, Sharon exists and has been doing things, and she's actually a badass now. Like, and to some degree, you kind of like the fact that they were just like, oh yeah, I've been here building contacts, I got thrown away. I like her that they gave her a
John Wick style fight scene.
Yes, yeah. She just walked around and gun food a bunch of guys, like walking around shipping containers, and that was tight. And they also made her clearly an established, like, I'm a big deal here in Madripoor, but I don't want to be here. Like, I look at how I suffered from the events of Civil War. No one did anything about this. You touched on this more earlier when we spoke about Sam, but and now but she's made something of herself. That she is. It really establishes something about, like, how with Zemo we see that he's always thinking steps ahead. He's very a brilliant tactician. That she is incredibly capable. That she, like, we cannot. You can't just second, like Sharon Carter might not seem like a lot, but she beats the shit out of like dozens of bounty hunters that are all capable with guns and all these things. She from the bottom up built herself up in Madripoor to be a force to be reckoned with. She has a satellite. In episode 4, she's just like, yeah, I have a satellite. I'll just track Captain America, like, no problem. She's a exclusive stolen art dealer. Like, that's kind of a big deal, even if it isn't made out to be. She just throws a casual party while she's selling things. She gets them the information. She rescues them. She's basically painted out to be a badass. However, her character is maybe not quite as charismatic or interesting as Zemo.
So I was thinking, as you brought up Zemo. So the biggest flaws that I would say her character has are, one, what's her motivation? What does she want? We don't know what that is right now, other than maybe she wants to return to her home in America and see her family. We're not really sure. Like, that's why she's helping Sam and Bucky, presumably. But what is her greater motivation? Like, and where is this power coming from? Like, what has she done to get there? Like, who is she working with to have that much power and magical? And I I definitely had the thought in my mind, and I've seen it as a sort of theory online, and it kind of seems a bit too obvious, but it definitely seems like she's being painted out to probably be the power broker.
I didn't actually have this thought during the series, but you mentioned it to me, before we were doing the podcast before, and now that you say it, it does seem like it could be a legitimate thing. I mean, I don't think it seems too obvious at this point because, I mean, I think in some ways, like Sharon seems like she's really well connected, but it also is like, but she seems like she's too accessible to be the power broker. Like the power broker should be some kind of like hidden figure, maybe. But maybe that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to be like, oh, well, she's like hidden in plain sight. Like people just think that she's just Sharon Carter, but she's really, like she is like, I am Sharon Carter, just the stolen art dealer. But really, that's a front for me being something even greater than that. Like, and so that I think that's a valid, idea. She clearly has had lots of interesting. I mean, I guess, like literally Selby gets killed and immediately there's a text sent out from the power broker saying bounty on these guys' heads, which then pushes them right into her arms. So maybe she is orchestrating events.
And like, I did rewatch episode 3 because like the first time it just didn't really leave a mark on me. When they're getting out of Selby's, first of all, Selby gets sniped out of nowhere. Secondly, they're getting saved by guns firing out of windows from buildings. And then Sharon appears in the street. So who are those other guns?
Yeah.
Presumably this is Sharon coming to the rescue. But so she has the power to orchestrate other people saving their lives. And so that's what tells me that there's a little, it's stuff like that tells me that she's probably the power broker or is affiliated with him at the very least.
So here's the thing I would think otherwise though. Why did she let them all go into, I mean, the power broker hired Nagel, and if she was, or it was even directly affiliated with him, why did she let them go in here in there and interrogate him and potentially kill, like she, let somebody that might kill him. I mean,
and she was upset that he had done that. Like she was the one to call out, what'd you do?
Yeah.
But she probably has other ways to get the serum. Like she doesn't like the research he's done already exists.
Yeah. And
also, she owns it if she's the power broker.
Yeah. And one thing to actually add on to your theory though, is that the, when she talks to Sam in episode 4 and she says, hey, make sure you get the serum, Sam. Like she urges him like right before she gets off the phone with him that he needs to make sure he gets the serum. So she's definitely, I mean, whether it's for different motives, she's also very much like trying to get the serum. And that's like an important thing, for her. Yeah. So maybe those are just the shared motives between them. I think it'd be interesting because she does just seem like such like a, in some ways they're making her badass, making her capable of being the power broker. But it also seems like, it's not going to be her that's the power broker, right? Like,
yeah. So
I think it would be an interesting, cool little twist.
And I think in retrospect, it would make her character more interesting if she was, if there's some, like clearly there's some subterfuge happening, but to know what it is specifically, I think could pay off well. And yeah, so let's hope that this second half of the series stays as good as the first part of this half, because we only have 2 episodes left.
Are you serious?
6-episode show.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're killing me. Man. All right. Well, I mean, hey, man, I guess we're dang. Are you serious?
2 episodes
that seems insane.
And then the next we're getting, I think, is Loki.
I guess now that I think about it, there are hour episodes. So yeah, WandaVision had 10 30-minute episodes. This has 6 1-hour episodes. So
exactly. So
all right. Yeah. Well,
all's fair. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I mean, 4 is finally delivering on the setups of the previous 3. 3 was, overall, better for me than the first 2. I think the series is finally reaching a point where I'm really enjoying it. And like getting to where I expected it to be. So
I finished episode 3 and I was like, I don't know if I even want to keep doing this podcast. I finished episode 4 and I was like, this show is good.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, yeah. I think that's it for me. How about you, Ryan?
I think that's it for me.
Excellent. All right. Well, until next time, This has been Robert.
And Ryan.
Have a good one, folks.
Yep.